If you are a frustrated home buyer in today's market, or if you are afraid to get into this market as a home buyer, because you're hearing the horror stories, you're hearing about the bidding wars and having to overpay, then today's video is going to be for you. I'm going to give you 5 tips that you can use, some actionable items, and ways that you can approach making an offer on that home that you really want, so that you can avoid getting into the bidding wars or avoid overpaying for that home and paying more than you can afford or paying more than market value. So stay tuned, we're going to go over that coming right up. Welcome everyone, as always, Mitchell Goulding here, a realtor with Exit Realty Lift Lock Brokerage in Peterborough, Ontario, and this is your Peterborough Realtor. So as mentioned, today we are going to talk about what it means to be a buyer in this kind of market, in a seller's market, where there are bidding wars and there are multiple offers, and how you can take some actionable steps and make up a plan so that you do not end up having to overpay for that home and end up paying more than you can afford or market value, because let's face it, nobody wants to do that. So if you do feel that you will get some value from this video or from any other videos on my channel, then please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Hit the bell notification as well so that you do get notified when I go live with new helpful content for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. So like I said, I'm going to give you some tips right now, 5 of them to be exact, that are going to help you with regards to your home buying search and give you some tips so that you can avoid overpaying, overbidding, or paying more than you can afford on that home that you really want. So tip number 1, this one is very important, not only in a seller's market where there may be competing offers, but in my opinion, it's really important if you are a serious home buyer in any market, but that is to have, it's to get a pre-approval from the bank for your mortgage. And when I say pre-approval, I don't mean when you give some information to a bank or a mortgage broker and then they say, okay, if everything is as you say it is, we'll approve you for up to this much. That's not a pre-approval. Pre-approval is when you go and you actually have a bank or a mortgage lender, whoever you use, actually run your credit and actually get the supporting documentation that they need so that they can approve you for the mortgage. And they will give you a commitment letter stating that you are fully qualified for up to this amount. When you do that, you don't need to put a financing condition in your offer to the seller. So as I'm sure you've heard, the less conditions you have on an offer, the more attractive it is to the seller and the more likely it is to be accepted. So when you have that pre-approval, the seller knows that you're serious, the seller knows that you're already pre-approved, you're ready to go, and they don't have to worry that you may have overstepped, that you may be offering above your budget, and that there's a chance that, that the deal will fall through during this conditional period. So get your pre-approval and it'll save you a lot of headache and a lot of worry in the long run as well, but it will make your offer much more attractive to the seller. And with that, on to tip number 2, and that is to not have a property of your own to sell in order to buy. So obviously this, it's really situational based. You may not be comfortable doing that, or you just may not be in a situation where you can do that. A lot of people may put their home on the market and sell it and then go and look for a home to buy, or at the very least start the selling process so that you're further along than most and you don't have to start from scratch. But the reason why it really helps when you're making an offer on a home to not have this condition is because this condition is one of the harder ones to fulfill, especially in a timely manner. So right now, those conditions will be on for about 30 days. Yeah, I've seen a couple of times in current market, they'll give you that at most in order to sell your home to complete the purchase. And sellers don't like to see it because it ties up their home and it ties up the sale of their home conditionally for a much longer period of time, and it's a riskier condition. So there's definitely a chance that your home won't sell, and it won't sell in that amount of time, and then you won't be able to complete the sale. So if that happens and it falls through, then the seller has to get back on the market and they have to try and generate more interest, and they've lost an entire month or so on market, and it really does set them back. So seeing that condition on there, sellers definitely don't like seeing it. It definitely makes them worry. So if at all possible, be in a situation where you do not have to put the sale of buyer's property condition in your offer. And tip number 3 is to be flexible. And no, I do not mean this type of flexible. What I mean when I say being flexible is being flexible in your needs and your wants, as well as in the terms you are willing to go with in your offer to the seller. So needs and wants is really just making sure that you have analyzed what you absolutely need in a home and what are just auxiliary wants, so things that you would like to have. Know where you can make the compromises, know where you're willing to make the compromises, as that's going to open up more options for you in terms of homes that fit what you are looking for, and the more options there are, then the more likely you are to succeed. In addition, like I said, be flexible on terms, and I will give you two examples that I have been involved in recently that illustrate this effect. So being flexible on closing date. So I was involved in a transaction where closing date is actually what won in an offer scenario. So it wasn't for the most money, but the buyer agreed to go with the exact closing date that the seller wanted. So it makes things easier for the seller. It makes their move out easier. It makes their planning. They don't need to find storage or rent a home in the meantime if they were going to be displaced. By giving them the exact closing date they wanted, it aligned with their plans and gave them peace of mind and just made it easier on them, so that put their offer over the top. Inclusions and exclusions can also be something. Some offers can get tied up in, they want the washer and dryer included, or they don't want something in the home that the sellers are trying to leave. Those kinds of things really, in the grand scheme of everything, shouldn't matter as much as getting the home itself. And I've been a part of a bid that won because they agreed to take the piano. So they didn't play the piano and they didn't want it, but if you've never had a piano, or try to move one, it can be expensive, and it can be a really big pain. So by taking that pain away from the seller, they like the overall structure of that deal better, not having to deal with the piano, and ultimately it worked in the buyer's favor. So be flexible in needs and wants and in terms on the contract. And tip number 4 is a very, very important tip. It's a very important element of the entire process. And that is, please be prepared to bring your best offer right away. So obviously, buyers, they like to try and get the most value for their dollar. They don't want to overpay. They want to try and get the best deal possible on the house that they want, and that is completely understandable. Part of the job of a real estate agent representing you is to make sure that you get that. However, if you're in multiple offers, if you're in a competitive offer and a bidding war, you have to know that coming in lower than you are actually willing to go and hoping to work your way up is just not going to cut it, obviously. If there's multiple offers, the sellers are going to take something in the dollar range that they feel that the home is worth. They aren't going to entertain any kind of offers where they feel they're going to have to negotiate to get the price up. They're going to weigh the elements, but if your price isn't there, then the rest of it doesn't really matter. If it's unconditional, and you're flexible in terms, if your dollar value is much lower than the home is worth in today's market, you're not going to get engagement. The seller's likely to not even consider it, and there won't be a negotiation. So if you really want the home, make sure that you're ready to come with your best offer right off the start. And that brings us to tip number 5, which is to do your homework and do your research. Now this kind of aligns, with tip number 1, where you should do this regardless if it's, a multiple offer, competitive offer situation, or just home buying in general. But do your homework and research before you go and see a property, if at all possible. So when buying a home, obviously it's not only about the house itself. People want to look at neighborhoods and amenities, certain neighborhoods. So make sure that you're looking at that stuff that's important to you. So if it's school district, if it's school bus routes, if it's recreational facilities around, amenities that are nearby, where can you go grocery shopping that's nice and close. If those kinds of things are important to you, make sure you or your agent, who should assist you with that, make sure they are getting that kind of information before you go and see the property, so that if you do see the house and if it does check all your boxes and you're ready to go, you don't have to wait. You can jump on that opportunity right away, and because you got your pre-approval and now you know that the neighborhood and the surrounding area meets what you want, you are ready to go, you're ready to put on that offer. And if you pounce on it early enough and you get in there right away, maybe you can avoid the bidding war situation altogether, and maybe you are the only offer that the seller can consider. Then you're much more likely to be able to negotiate, But if you put in your best offer right away, you're pre-approved, you've done your research, then you should be good to go. That should, in the very least, begin a negotiation process where hopefully you end up with that home that you really want. Well, that is it for today's video, everybody. If you are a home buyer in the current market, or if you're a prospective buyer, and you're worried about what's to come and what you've heard, then I do hope that today's video has given you some valuable information and some actionable tips and steps that you can take and hopefully make your home search just a little bit more successful and a little less stressful on you. So if you did get value from this video or any other video that I have put on my channel, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Hit the bell notification as well so that you are notified when I come out with new informational content. And I will see everybody next time.